Hello and welcome to Movie Film Studios, the only podcast that takes you inside the mind of two film studio executives as we unravel and then re-ravel the best that Hollywood has to offer. I'm Isaac.
And I'm AJ, and this week we ripped our jeans and slipped on our Doc Marten boots as we silently ran away from a genetically enhanced discount Tom Hardy. As always, we'll be taking one or more of these trailers and crafting them into something completely original. But before we bring you something new, it's time for something old as we check in on last week's feature in Box Office Report.
Box Office Report. Indeed, last week we made the third installment, which was the first film we made, but it was the third installment of a dying children's animated film franchise. It was called Natural Selection Galapagos Getaway.
Natural Selection 3 Galapagos Getaway.
It's true, a sequel to Natural Selection 2 Survival of the Fittest, which was a sequel to Natural Selection. Yeah.
Now, as we discussed last week, we cast pretty much the entire cast from Lord of the Rings in our film.
Yeah, we did.
So we cast Elijah Wood, Billy Boyd, all of them. They're all in it.
I mean, Carl Urban got a role, so we were scraping the bottom of the barrel.
The thing is, though, Peter Jackson sort of caught wind of the fact that we had reunited the cast of Lord of the Rings, and he actually put his hand up to direct the film.
Oh, really?
But being Peter Jackson and being someone who likes to take a single property and split it up into 3 different properties, he's taken our third film in a franchise and split that into 3 films.
So he's Deathly Hallows / Hunger Games.
Yes.
But instead of part 1 and 2...
There's 3 parts.
It's 3-part
one. 3 parts. They're all 2.5 hours long. The director's cuts for each of them will be 3 hours long. The first installment has come out and it just ends. It just ends on a crazy cliffhanger where the Australian animals have just turned up to the Galapagos Islands. And that's it. That's where it ends. And, it ends with a whole bunch of other animals suddenly surrounding them, and they're all armed. And that's it. Just cut to black. Roll credits.
Got to wait for next year.
Next year, yeah.
Number 3, part 2 to come out.
Indeed.
See, I haven't watched the film yet, but I was very excited for the release. Mm-hmm. And I've shared with you my theory before that there's this nexus where children's animated movies go into and they come out and they're released and they disappear and you've never noticed that they existed. Yeah. I sat there in front of my computer watching the box office ticker, 11:58, 11:59.
Yep.
And then I must have yawned because it was 12:01.
Yep.
The film had come out and already gone.
Yep.
And I literally... blink and you'll miss it. I blinked and I missed it.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. We earned $175 million in that tiny little window.
Right.
Look, I'm going to have to arrange it for parts 2 and 3.
Yep.
And make sure that I literally pry my eyes open because in that millisecond between midnight and midnight .00001, something happens.
Yep.
Some time-space continual vortex opens up, our movie comes out and disappears.
That's right.
All in the blink of an eye.
Yeah. It was a great wrap party, though, for it because we had all the actors there. We had Peter Jackson there, and then we decided to bring in, just as a sort of little gag for the crew as well, we brought in the real-life versions of all the animated animals.
Oh, right.
And just had them all in the room milling around, mingling with the A-list celebrities. It was lovely. It was lovely. It was a bit of a...
I think you're being a bit generous calling film stars from 2001 to 2003 as being A-list celebrities.
Ian McKellen and Cate Blanchett were there.
And Viggo Mortensen has been in how many films in the last 18 years?
He's been a couple. Sean Bean.
Hidalgo, I think, in the horse film show.
He did Captain Amazing and something or other. We had 6 kids or something. It's the Lord of the Rings again, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's just reprising that.
Yeah.
It was great, yeah. Really great experience. But yeah, you're right. I literally opened up our bank statement and all of a sudden, $175 million.
$175 million.
Yeah.
I
couldn't believe it. So we're going to have to really invest this capital wisely, I think.
No, Peter wants it for parts 2 and 3. It's already earmarked. He's going bigger. He's going...
okay.
You know how there's in the script, a 3-paragraph thing and then there's a fight?
Yep.
He's turned that entire fight into an hour-long sequence with giant elephants and blue whales.
But he's not making the mistake of saving it for part 3. He's going to do it in part 2. Part 3 is going to be something totally different.
That's assuming that number 3 part 3 doesn't get split into number 3 part 3 I in brackets A,
Appendix A, Appendix B, and Appendix C. All right, so that is Natural Selection 3, Galapagos Getaway Part 1. Part 2 will be out next year. Part 3 out the year after next. And that will mean that will be a 9-hour film altogether.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, on to this week in trailers.
Indeed.
Now, it's an interesting week for trailers, I have to say, particularly if you like grim, dark, depressing, and odd high concept.
We like to normally each week we form a bit of a balance. There's normally like an actiony film. There's normally a light-hearted comedy film and something a bit more serious or grim.
Yeah.
It was horrendously grim this week.
All grim.
Just, we opened up maybe 9 trailers and at the end I'm like, holy crap, why do I feel so emotionally drained?
Every single trailer opened with that sound effect, which means bad things are happening.
I think we're going to run through a real brief short list of ones that didn't make the cut. Too grim for the cut. Bear in mind, the 3 that we've selected, super grim in their own right.
That's right.
So first, Reformed is a film with Ethan Hawke, who plays a
priest,
incredibly
Christian
dour priest who discovers that there's like a terrorist plot with bombs and people are going around the neighborhood killing people.
Yep.
There's this weird scene where a lady confronts him and apparently they've slept together, and then we see a scene of them sleeping together and then floating off the ground.
Levitating,
And then it also sort of says that he may sort of become a vigilante himself and go around trying to solve the crimes of the neighborhood by murdering people. What the hell?
Does Ethan Hawke only do high concept films? Has he ever been anything generic at all? Like even The Purge, right? Like that's a pretty weird concept for a film.
Segue. You said The Purge.
Oh, yes, I did.
Another film, another dark film. We can't get too deep into these ones. The First Purge, which is like a prequel to the series where they go around murdering each other legally in the night.
Yep.
Another one.
One night a year, yeah.
Cargo, which is Martin Freeman lost in the Australian desert, but there's also zombies, and he's been bitten, and he now has to like walk through the desert while people try and kill him, trying to keep a small toddler alive.
Possibly his daughter.
We have Darkest Minds, which is a near-future post-apocalyptic America where kids have developed mutant powers and the military has segregated them and are probably killing them off because they're developing powers. It's grim. It's real grim out there, guys. All right, AJ, what is actually the first cab off the rank?
The first cab off the rank is a film based on a Neil Gaiman novel, How to Talk to Girls at Parties.
So you say novel. I just said from the mind of Neil Gaiman, he's very cross-media at this point.
True. It starts off as like, it feels like a bit of a coming-of-age story because it starts off with 3 kids set in 1970s London.
I'd say early 80s, but
early 80s, sure. High point of the sort of, or the beginning, rather, of the punk era in England. And we follow 3 boys who are, dressed in all the punk regalia.
Leather, studded, spiky, ripped jeans, as you said, Doc Marten boots.
Yeah. Going to a concert or like a little gig somewhere, getting kind of messed up, and then finding themselves at a house. And they go inside this house, and it's inhabited by people, but they're not really people. They're all dressed very bizarrely.
So if you've ever studied art, there's this Dada movement where they all dress weird and do these weird performance arts, and these guys are dressed in incredibly tight latex with primary colors. Their faces are painted with somewhat like almost Harlequin clown makeup. They're doing sort of surrealist performance art all through this sort of weird space.
And it also seems like there's magic involved or extraterrestrial things involved because like there's scenes where they're growing extra fingers or growing entire hands and just doing really bizarre things. And these 3 boys are sort of there going, what is going on?
Initially they go, this is crazy and cool and these people are beautiful, and then when the weird shit starts happening, they go, we have to get out of here.
That's right, And so anyway, what ends up happening is the central boy sort of hooks up with one of the girls at this strange house.
Yeah, played by Ellie Fanning.
Played by Ellie Fanning, and it turns out that she is some kind of creature, or is she in a cult of some kind, and she's allowed out for 48 hours to sort of spend her time with this boy.
Experience the human world. Have a human experience.
Yeah.
We see scenes where she's on the toilet and she's like, "Oh, this is the first time I've ever done it. It's taking a lot longer than I expected."
That's right. Yep. They have a thing where they try to kiss for the first time, and then she just spits all over him.
Oh, really? I thought he vomited in that one, but
well,
it's one of the two
One
vomits.
of the two. Yep. So bizarre, kind of really, really bizarre to see, but it's clearly just sort of a manic pixie dream girl kind of scenario, and she is the most manic and the most pixie and the most dream and I guess the most girl for.
And might as well be Nick and Nora's Infinite playlist.
It is, yeah. With just weird
but
shit.
with From the Mind of Neil Gaiman, where Nora comes from a parallel dimension with weird, like when you say manic pixie dream girl, like. It's not a euphemism for anything. She's literally pixie dream from a dreamscape.
Yeah, exactly. It was just really bizarre imagery though, and it sort of initially this trailer sort of like, is it a horror or is it it felt really kind of foreboding.
When it first opened up, I thought it was going to be like we watched a trailer a couple of weeks ago, and I forget who was in it, but it's like, he goes to his first punk concert, and it changes his life. And I really thought it was going to be like that, like, From the Mind of Neil Gaiman. Like, Neil Gaiman's that age where he probably would have been 16 or 17 in the early 80s, and his life may have been changed by that punk movement, and it's going to be sort of like somewhat autobiographical. Nope. It went real manic pixie real fast.
Yes, see that in cinemas at some point later. All right. Film number 2 is, it's A Quiet Place starring John Krasinski and Emily Blunt.
And you know what else is in it?
Who?
Eldritch-style horror monsters. Does this sound any familiar at all?
Familiar? Oh, maybe. So we released a film called Book Club.
We wrote and pitched the idea. It was bought by another studio in the end.
Yes.
They did make a film called Book Club, which was sort of more octogenarian, reading 50 Shades of Grey, somewhat romantic comedy, but really kind of cringeworthy. And we're like, that's real different from the script that the pitch idea. And at that point, we'd already signed on John Krasinski and Emily Blunt to be in this film called Book Club, and when they weren't in this other studio's release, we're like, that's a little bit weird.
Yeah, but it turns out the studio made 2 films. So they took our original concept, which was a couple who moved to a new town and become embroiled in a sinister H.P. Lovecraft-inspired book club, and they've made a horror film that is seemingly inspired by H.P. Lovecraft elements, starring John Krasinski and Emily Blunt. So the concept for this film is there's some kind of creature.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's a monster invasion or a Cloverfield-style situation where they've reached... But these are like, what you would say probably cow-sized, articulated joints, so... insectoid, but very fleshy.
And reptile-y, almost slimy as well,
Lots of weird, nimbly, fingery legs. You don't get a real good look at them, and I think that's what's supposed to raise the stakes of the horror. But what you do know is that they respond to noise. If you make a noise at all, they will come get you.
Indeed. And I've been doing a little bit of reading about this film. Not a film I'll ever see, by the way, because I do not like horror, but... So John Krasinski directed this film. I believe.
Really?
Yeah, and I think he might have written it as well.
Based loosely on our own idea, but sure, if he wants to take credit for it, then sure.
Okay. Well, that's the thing. Like, they really have not. They've really just loosely adapted what we came up with. But anyway,
in some ways, you may say it's just enough to be legally distinct from our own creative idea.
Yes, exactly. They've movie film studioed our film. From what I've been reading, like he's done some really interesting things with the sound design in this film, in that a lot of the film is very, very quiet to the point where you can hear anything that's going on in the cinema. And it builds up the tension to a point where it's actually quite painful almost to a point. And then the scares happen and you will scream and do many other things, hence why I'm never going to see this film. But yeah, good on those two. Real life husband and wife, John Krasinski and Emily Blunt. Have never seen them together before in a film, and here they are.
Yeah, who would have thought to have cast them in the same film?
Who would have thought?
And a horror film at that.
Indeed.
Just as an aside, I'm so stoked this film exists. Just like, I kind of feel a little bit like Nostradamus, like predicting the events of the future through our own.
One day, someone's going to discover our website and the Mafusa Editor page. And, well, actually, they're just going to look at it and think that's a nice shopping list of ideas that we can take, mix them all up, make sure they're legally distinct from what those guys did, and release them.
Well, I think what they'll actually see is like a list of movies, and they're like, why are these guys just talking about movies that already came out? And they won't realize that we legitimately came up with these things first.
You're right.
Horror movie starring John Krasinski
Yep.
and Emily Blunt.
Yep.
They'll be like, yeah, of course, professional air hockey. That's existed for decades. What are these, like, these guys are talking all smug like they're making a big joke? No, these things actually exist.
Yeah, the telecommunications automaton, they used to exist.
Exactly.
They just were forgotten about.
And the CIA covered it up.
They did it, yes. They
Yeah,
did.
and then when they had to release all their, disclosed documents in 2050, it all came out.
It all came out. And, okay. So what else has we predicted then? Is our third film on the list part of that?
Who knows? So the third trailer this week is a film called Upgrade.
Yes.
The basic premise is, again, near future, this time sci-fi, where a quadriplegic person has a microchip implanted in the cervical vertebrae or C4, C, wherever he happens to have the
Somewhere
break.
in there, yep.
It bridges the gap and allows him to walk again.
Mm-hmm.
Built into the microchip is an AI that has like a Cortana, if you've ever played the Halo series, or Siri, if you've ever owned an iPhone.
Or Vision, or Jarvis, sorry.
Jarvis
from Iron Man.
Yeah, so it has a built-in voice interface that allows him to sort of go, yes, here are the things that I want to do and whatnot. And then at some point he is in a fight and he tells the chip to override his control, and so the chip's under its own control, and suddenly he is Matrix style, I now know Kung Fu expert, taking on this bad guy with Krav Maga style combat fighting.
Yeah, so visually his face, he looks like he is completely not in control of his own body. So his body is doing all these moves, all these crazy violent moves, and he has nothing to do with it. Like, his mind has nothing to do with it. So it's really kind of like a split personality scenario or metaphor. So his AI counterpart is doing all the work for him and is operating his limbs for him as well. Interesting. It really felt, it kind of actually did remind me of The Matrix a lot, because it's got very stylized kung fu and stylized action sequences.
It feels a little bit more tongue-in-cheek, like they kind of know it's a bit silly. And having said that, things that it reminds you of, there are certain angles in this film where they're showing the protagonist, and I'm like, that is definitely Tom Hardy. It is 100% definitely Tom Hardy.
Yeah.
And then he'll move his face slightly. I'm like, it's only 95% Tom Hardy. Where did the other 5% Tom Hardy go?
So I don't know who the actor's name it is, but he was also in Prometheus as the guy you thought was Tom Hardy.
Prometheus or like the alien?
No, he was definitely in Prometheus. He was Noomi Rapace's boyfriend in that film, and he gets killed
fairly early on. Sure, whatever.
Knows. But again, in that film, he does look like discount Tom Hardy. He is the most discount you can get. Well, no, he's actually so close to full price Tom Hardy.
Exactly.
It's like you could.
He's like the day after Easter Tom Hardy, because I went to the supermarket the day after Easter expecting you to get half price chocolate. They discount it by 35 cents off a $7 block of chocolate. I'm like, that's not enough of a discount. It's only been very, very partially discounted.
You know what he is? He's the I can't believe it's not butter Tom Hardy.
I can't believe it's not Tom Hardy. You say that
costs the same as butter.
I literally could not believe that it was not Tom Hardy. We paused that, and I'm like, there is no way that is not Tom Hardy. It has to be him. It absolutely has to be him. I wouldn't be surprised if Tom Hardy just showed up on set and did a few of the scenes.
Yeah.
And where's the viewing public later on just don't even notice that he's in it. They look so similar.
He was the stunt double. You know how Natalie Portman's stunt double in Star Wars was Keira Knightley? Well, discount Tom Hardy's stunt double in this was actually Tom Hardy. Okay, those are
the three
films. Yeah. Interesting. Ideas are percolating as we speak. But before we percolate them any further, before we take them off the boil and pour them into our nice mugs to take a chug, we need to take a very short walk to a very green room.
Let's go. Ooh, all right.
Yeah. Okay, so I believe I chose the film last week, so I think I'm going to have to hand the duties over to you, Isaac.
Just
what do
as
we have?
A brief recap. We have a
Manic Pixie Dream Girl film with supernatural / sci-fi overtones.
inspired by a retro music
aesthetic,
movement. We have a horror monster with a sound or lack thereof.
A technical, a sort of technical experiment horror film.
Yeah, we could do. I mean, there's lots of technical systems there we could experiment there.
Yeah,
like I suppose was there one where like a lot of the film was in the dark? Buried?
That was was that with Ryan Reynolds? He was in a coffin for the entire film.
Yeah, the entire sequences where it was just a black screen.
Just a black screen, yeah.
And we have Upgrade, which is a near future sci-fi action.
Yes, starring
a lookalike. If he was not a film star, he would have a career as a celebrity lookalike.
Okay, so what are you thinking?
I know what I want.
Do you?
And the last few weeks we've done what was supposed to be a comedy and turned into a sweeping, life-altering epic.
Yep.
And we went a little bit off the beaten path with a kids' animated film.
Yep.
I reckon we go back to classic movie film studios.
Yep.
And we do a sci-fi / action, near future, bio-enhanced, tongue-in-cheek, explosions everywhere. Right back on the train.
Yep. So immediately, the thing that I actually forgot to mention during our discussion of that film is that it does have a bit of a RoboCop feel, but RoboCop that is not taking itself seriously.
Yeah.
So that whole idea of augmenting enhancements,
cybernetic
enhancements, Terminator,
Avatar. I mean, it's not quite the same thing. But
Avatar wants to be serious, though. That's the problem with it.
Yeah.
It has too much of a, I'm going to try and put an environmental message in here or some other peace-loving message or something in here as well. No, we don't want any of that. It has to be just balls out, guns blazing, fire throwing, all action, all glory.
So there was a film a number of years ago with Bruce Willis called Surrogates.
Yep.
Where the people never left their homes. But they had lookalike robots that inhabited the real world, which they controlled through sort of like a virtual reality space.
Yep.
So it was their surrogates or their robot people who inhabited the real world. I really liked the concept.
Yeah.
The film was really bad. So if we're going to go with that cybernetic enhancement, we could go with that sort of very sort of in-thing VR, the Ready Player One.
Yep.
Only instead of controlling something in the virtual space, they're using their mind and their body to control a replicant of them or a robot version of them in the physical space.
It's almost like the Matrix in that regard.
That's still in the virtual space. This is, I think we still stick with it
into the real world.
Yeah, there is a robot out there who is a bipedal thing that probably has a face that looks quite like your real face.
Yep.
But you're controlling it from some other location, so you can't get hurt.
Yep.
So you can't. It can be thinner and more attractive and younger than you are in the real world.
Yep.
But can still it's got super strength and can do other things.
Okay, brilliant. I love it. So we're going to make it near future or future. So
no, I think within the next 60 or 70 years.
Okay, yep.
And I've just had an idea that maybe it's just the law enforcement or the military that has this, and so you have a blend of real meat people in a space with. Because then, there's no risk of soldiers dying. Your best and brightest and trained soldiers can, if they get shot in battle,
doesn't matter.
They just can replace it.
It's the natural evolution of drone technology. So the whole point of drone technology was that we won't use as many actual personnel to fly these planes and lose them when they crash or get killed.
Yeah.
Drones are expendable. So why don't we sort of expand it even further and actually make it like infantrymen or something.
Okay, yeah, so we do that, but it's not set during a war.
No.
It's sort of like the soldiers returning from Vietnam, trying to then integrate into the real world.
Yep.
But the issue is that they've become so accustomed of experiencing the world through their replicant people that they don't want to leave them, and the public's like, we don't want to inhabit the real space with a robot person, and they're like, well, I have my rights and I'm allowed to experience the world, and so you have soldiers, like, then you have like a Rambo situation, right? They drew first blood. And so maybe we just do Rambo with a robot.
So it's like an us versus them kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. So you have meat people, you have robot people. I feel weird calling them meat people because I'm a meat person, and so is everyone, to be honest. And then you have some sort of antagonist force, which is trying to like maybe attack them, or maybe we even do, like, again, I just keep referring back to great action movies, the Jean-Claude Van Damme Hard Target, where it's like the only thing to hunt which is more huntable than hunting is humans. What's the next step up? What's the most dangerous game? A cybernetically enhanced, military trained robot human. And so these people who have come back from whatever the equivalent of Vietnam is, Vietnam 2, and don't have a place in the world, are now earning money as super rich people try and hunt them. But, obviously they're trained so they get hunted back. And
Okay. I like this. I like where this is going. Now, I think we need to add in an extra layer of complexity, and I kind of like the idea that while this is happening, there is a sinister new force being brewed or developed somewhere that then comes in as like the third axis of... I can't say evil really, but it comes in as like our third antagonist.
So how does that work? In RoboCop, it was like a bipedal giant railgun machine thing that wasn't even cybernetically enhanced human. It was all robot with a little bit of brain matter. What's our version? What's the next step up? Although, I mean, to be fair, I'm not sure I really like this idea, but only because I'm thinking of... Do you remember the film Warm Bodies? Which
vaguely,
was a zombie film. Where they're like, oh, zombies are kind of good. And so then you have humans and zombies. And then they introduced, like, ultra zombies who were, like, had rotten down to skeleton form and were heaps evil. And I'm like... Well, the only reason you could make the zombies good was if you introduced something that was badder than the guys that we think are normally bad. So I like the ambiguity of not having anything worse than our super soldiers. And I mean, maybe there are things that are worse, but they're just like super soldiers who are just bad people. And it's not really the soldiers.
The super soldiers that have gone rogue.
Exactly. I mean, and it's the same thing where you have, again, I haven't really ever seen the first Rambo, First Blood, but I think there's a corrupt... chief of police who's hunting him down, and he's just an asshole of a person. Like, there's no reason that like assholes can't have robot bodies.
We haven't had an asshole as a villain for quite a long time, because I'm thinking like Die Hard with
Hans Gruber. Alan
he was just a dick. Like, there's no real, like, he's not any kind of superior specimen of he's just an asshole.
Exactly.
And I think we sort of need a film where the antagonist is just an asshole.
It's just a dick.
It's just a dick. Okay. Okay. Let's give this a little bit of structure now. So we've got our super soldiers. And I think we'll follow maybe like a platoon, a small group, maybe about 8.
I was going to go 5. 5?
Yeah.
Five.
Okay.
Only 5 of them make it back.
Oh, real? Out of the whole force, only 5? Wow, they really screwed up.
No, just from that particular platoon.
Oh, okay.
Only because I don't know how big a platoon is. It comes from the Greek for 13, you idiot. Didn't you know the platoon, the platos, which is flat, and oon, which means 13, and 13... anyway. Only 5, like the rest of them... the rest of them decide that they want to live their human lives, their meat lives, as they're called.
So they retire their super soldier.
Exactly, but there's 5 of them that went, we are so attached to this we can't experience the world through any other way.
And is the connection with the super soldier kind of a symbiotic, or is it just like I'm wearing VR goggles and I'm controlling like a suit?
There's a point there where potentially the bad guy is trying to track down their meat bodies in the real space.
Yeah.
because if you kill that, then that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas,
This is almost sounding like Ghost in the Shell as well.
I've not seen Ghost in the Shell,
Okay.
but sure. And so yeah, they're trying to track them down, and so
Yep.
maybe it comes to a point where someone's machine just goes offline, and they're like, "Well, just what happened? What happened?"
All right,
And
yeah.
then they see that Barry was murdered in his home in his VR suit
So-
or whatever.
Could our asshole just be someone who wants to recycle the super soldier?
I think he's just like, maybe he is the. We started off where there's a game, right, where
Yeah.
he's an incredibly wealthy trillion. I don't know how much money they're going to have in the near future,
yeah,
or even if it's going to be
it's
dollars.
definitely trillionaire.
He's got 1 trillion bitcoins just sitting around,
Yeah.
and they play the game of he wants to hunt the most dangerous
Okay,
person,
yeah, yeah.
but like he's so used to being a dickhead and just trying to outthink the game. He's just like,
Yeah.
well, I don't need to hunt the robot. If I just kill the people who are controlling the robots,
yes.
then I can win the game
Yes,
by
yes.
breaking the rules.
Excellent. So he's like an eccentric trillionaire who invites these last remaining super soldiers to his estate, where he's got this like huge plot of land somewhere.
Is this
Yeah.
the third film in
Yep.
our John Cusack
Ooh,
eccentric
yes.
billionaire?
Yeah, it is. Yep, 100% is. So John Cusack has gone from organising pinball tournaments to air hockey tournaments
yeah.
to cybernetic army men.
Yeah, arcade games used to sate his lust for winning at games at any
Yeah.
cost, and now it's 60 years in the future. He's cybernetically enhanced himself, like he's bicentennial manned himself into like some sort of. He's more machine than
More
man
machine
now.
than man now.
And he's just like, nothing gives me the thrill of the arcade games that I
Yeah,
used
yeah,
to
yeah,
have.
yep.
The only thing which can give me that thrill is hunting down cyberhumans.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
this is the magnum opus, the final stint as the eccentric billionaire
Yep.
John Cusack trilogy. I kind of feel bad that it's only been like 3 weeks since Billy and the Machine, but this just feels so perfect for the
It's
climactic.
Absolutely, yeah. This has to happen, and it's such a perfect arc for him as well.
Exactly.
Okay, I love this. So John Cusack has now retired from the world of art. Well, no, let's say like perhaps he was unceremoniously ejected from that world, and he sort of spent the rest of his life becoming a reclusive hermit. But really, in the background, he was cybernetically enhancing himself,
Yeah.
ready for the comeback.
Yeah.
And now the time has arrived.
Everyone thought that he's dead because by this stage he'd be like 150 years old.
Yeah.
And at this point in history, people only consistently living to like 110. He's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
like, it's like if Hitler came back now and he was like a robot. He's like, yeah, you thought I'd be dead because I'm like 130? Guess again.
Yeah,
Not comparing John Cusack to Hitler though. Just John Cusack's character in this film
so it's-
series.
It's Mecha John Cusack.
Yeah.
Okay, I love this. So, who's our platoon?
So we've got 5 of them,
We've got
right?
5 of them, yeah.
We have the guy. I mean,
Do we need to choose like traditional army? So you got like the flamethrower dude. You've
Oh,
got
yeah.
the heavy weapons dude.
communications dude.
Communications
You know what I'm
dude.
thinking of now? You remember the little army figures, like the
Yeah,
green
yeah,
ones
yeah,
with
yeah.
and they're all in
Paratrooper, yeah.
the same poses. It's like sergeant guy who has a Desert Eagle pistol, and you have M16 guy.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
had fire guy. You have the guy who's carrying the radio backpack, and then a separate guy who's got the walkie-talkie
Yeah.
that's attached to the guy
Okay.
who has the radio backpack.
Can I also pitch an idea here? Now, shoot me down if you want. So you know how the first appearance of John Cusack's character is in the spiritual successor to Truman, The Truman Show.
Truman Paddles to Destiny.
Can
yeah.
we not just license the Army Men toys and make our own version of Army Men, which is nowhere near what the Army Men toys are like? So we're only using the sort of
in the
generic concept.
same way that like the Hugh Jackman film,
Yeah.
which was supposed to be Rock'em Sock'em Robots,
Yes, right, yeah.
but was just like fighting robots.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I like it.
Yep. Or the way, Battleship, right? Like, that has nothing to do with the Battleship board game. Yeah, let's do that. So we license Army Men, the green plastic bucket of Army Men
Yeah.
toys.
Yep.
And we make our version of it, which is Mecha John Cusack, set 70 years in the future, versing the 5 remaining remnants of the American super soldier
Yeah.
AI
I think
campaign.
and again, it's going to be spoiled for people who have listened to this podcast before watching the film.
Yep.
But I think the fact that the guy that's hunting them down, being John Cusack, is a twist.
Yeah.
It's a massive M. Night Shyamalan style twist at the end of the film.
No one knows that this is the final film in the trilogy.
No,
so we've definitely established that this is a trilogy and there will be a final film, but we haven't told anyone that this is the final film.
And no one's going to expect it this close to the release of the last film.
Right.
It's like that film came out 4 weeks ago. This is supposed to be the big penultimate.
Yeah.
So we don't tell anyone it's the big twist. I really liked your idea though of really fleshing out the characters. I think with The Curious Flight of the Hymenopteryx, we really sort of sat down and went, here are their character quirks and here are the people we're going to play them.
Yep.
Obviously in this one, we're not going to get those people to play them.
No.
We're going to find the person who looks most like them to play them. But I think we should really do that. So we've got the main guy.
Yep.
Who, if you're thinking of the army soldiers, is just the guy with the M16.
Infantryman.
He's just a general infantryman.
Yep.
He has to be the most stock standard looking dude around. Who is the actor that we want to cast a person who looks like that?
Okay. Who is the most generic actor these days?
I think we've discussed Avatar. Sam Worthington,
for sure,
has just such a forgettable face. He's so generic.
It's not
white guy, army guy, and he's just such a forgettable looking dude. I mean, I suppose even like Joel Edgerton kind of looks like.
I think they look the same.
Exactly.
Don't they?
So we need someone who, from a certain angle, looks like Sam Worthington, and from a different angle, looks like Joel Edgerton.
Hang on, can't we just
but is neither.
If we get Sam Worthington to play the meatbag version, and then Joel Edgerton to play the cybernetic version.
I don't know. I don't actually think we should be casting real life actors. I think they all have to be lookalikes.
Yep.
And so if you put Sam Worthington and Joel Edgerton's face into Photoshop and just laid them over the top of one another, and you get a slightly looking dude. Like, it looks sort of similar to both of them, but not quite like either of them.
Yeah.
We find whoever that is, and that person can play general infantryman.
Yep.
The other one you mentioned there was flamethrower.
Yep.
I think flamethrower
Pyro,
dude is a bit bigger and burlier.
Yep, because they got to carry like a big tank of
propane or whatever,
propellant and that sort of nozzle thing, and they've got to wear heat-resistant gear.
Yeah, sure.
So someone a bit burly. They don't need to be fit, though. They can be a little bit portly, I guess.
Yeah.
But kind of stocky. Stocky's probably the right word for it. John Cena comes to mind. But he's
all right. We did the same thing again, right?
Yep.
We get John Cena.
Yep.
We get Dwayne the Rock Johnson. We put their faces into Photoshop. We blend them together.
Yep.
And whoever we find who is the exact blend between those two faces.
Yep.
Is
the pyro.
Yeah.
Okay. Great.
Is pyro person.
Now we need probably like a paratrooper. If I recall, is one of them. Now we can also cast women as well.
I was about to bring up the same thing. This near future. Where the military is definitely
for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
The current military is pretty diverse.
Exactly.
As well.
Who's in this sort of role?
So you know who always gets cast in these Army films. She was in the Resident Evil films. She sort of always plays
Mila Djokovic.
No. She's also in. She was in. Oh man, who am I thinking of? She's like a Hispanic actress. She's always cast as kind of like the badass.
Michelle Rodriguez.
That's it. That's the one. So Michelle Rodriguez plus. I mean, do you want to do Mila Jovovich?
Sure.
Yeah. Again, straight into Photoshop, blend them together. Whoever looks like the mix of those two, we will cast.
We're also going to have to develop like an algorithm for scanning facial features.
Yep.
And then also scanning like casting websites where they've put up their headshots.
Yeah.
To really like, I think that if you've ever been on those websites, there's hundreds of thousands of headshots.
Yep.
There is no way we can't find someone who looks exactly like we needed them to.
You know that website that where you can upload a photo and then it'll tell you which celebrity you look most like?
Yeah.
We'll just do that. So
but in reverse.
In reverse, yeah.
We upload a celebrity and they tell you which non-celebrity looks most like them.
Yeah, exactly. It'll troll Facebook or something and then it'll just pick whoever's sort of categorized themselves as an actor or an actress. Okay, great. So we've got our generic infantryman, we've got our pyro, we've got our paratrooper. We need two more. So
Sarge? I think Sarge.
Yeah.
We need a Sarge.
We need a Sarge. Now, do they... I mean, I immediately thought of... oh, gosh. Why do I keep forgetting actors' names? But the guy that played J. Jonah Jameson in the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man films.
Yep, and he was in Whiplash, I
And he was in
believe.
Whiplash as well. Because I just love his crew cut smoking a cigar look. It's a classic Sarge motif.
I feel like it's like a two-letter name and then a surname, like T.J. Miller or something else.
Yeah, J.K. Simmons. There you
J.K.
go.
Simmons. I told you it was a two letters in another name. So,
So
yep, J.K.
Simmons. And who else? Who is a nice kind of elder statesman? Oh, I mean, it doesn't need to be too
I was
old,
about to
but-
say J.K. Simmons and Donald Sutherland, but then I realized that when you put their faces together in Photoshop, you just get the same face. It's like, it's just J.K. Simmons or Donald Sutherland.
Yeah, that's right. You look in one angle, like one side, it's just J.K. Simmons. The other side, it is Donald Sutherland.
Exactly.
Who else? Who else could we shove into the Photoshop machine? Older actor. Well, it doesn't even have to be an older actor. We could just put Hugh Jackman in there.
Yeah, that's fine. If you want, like, again, you're going with the cigar chewing
one.
Yeah, that's all right. We get a Hugh Jackman and J.K. Simmons.
Because J.K. Simmons is bald in real life as well. So
Yeah, sure. That's fine. We blend them together,
Blend
see
them
what
together.
comes out the
Yeah.
other side. And we need one more. I don't know if is it demolitions expert? Is it heavy artillery?
Communications?
Yeah,
Runner?
sure. I could, yeah. We would
Or
do communications.
Communications, yeah.
Communications and infiltration.
Yep.
And I think we'll go with another female actress
Yep.
at this stage.
Mhm.
You're testing the range of...
Zoe Saldana.
And Zoe Deschanel, and we
Perfect.
mix them together. Strangely enough, the person who comes out is also named Zoe for some strange reason. I mean, that's the last caveat there.
But like-
Whoever we cast as a mix between Zoe
Yeah.
Saldana and Zoe Deschanel also has to be called Zoe.
Yeah, but
because otherwise,
with 3 O's instead of 2, like Zoe Deschanel and one O with Zoe.
if we're just looking for
Saldana.
face lookalikes, the
Yeah.
algorithm's just going to have a real easy time. We have to put arbitrary restrictions on it as well. So the Jay Jameson, not J.K. Simmons,
and Hugh Jackman,
like that person, like also has to be a smoker of cigars.
Yep,
Like
yep.
the headshot that they find has to have a cigar in it.
Yep.
If the algorithm finds someone who could very well be their love child, exactly who we're casting, if that photo that person's not smoking a
Yep.
cigar,
Rejected.
we can't cast it.
Yep.
Yeah.
It will just get phased out, filtered out. Great, okay. And it has to be Zoe with 3 O's,
Three
in
O's.
her name. Okay. All right, that's the full cast. And we've got John Cusack, of course, reprising his
Cusack.
role as trillionaire now. I like the idea that he starts off in Truman as a millionaire.
No. Well, so the thing is, Truman Paddles of Destiny
Yep.
is set in present day because
Ah.
it's a documentary.
Yep.
Billy versus the
The
Machine
Machine.
is set in
It's a
the
prequel.
late 80s, early 90s. And then this one is set in the future.
Yes.
And I think, as we said, you can watch any of these films
Yep.
out of sequence.
Yep.
And it still has the same effect.
Yeah.
So it's a trilogy with no order.
Yeah.
Um,
Perfect. Okay, I love that. And yeah, because you get a really interesting sense of this character. So if you start off watching this film and sort of like, oh wow, John Cusack's a crazy character, you can go back and watch the other ones and you get a bit of history.
Yeah, exactly.
Or you start off at the start and see how that character evolves over time.
Exactly.
Perfect. This is fantastic. Do we need to figure out any particular action sequences? I think that's sort of
No,
one
I mean,
thing.
in my head, just big explosions,
Yep.
lots of blood. There's got to be a car chase at some point.
Yep.
Are there flying cars in 60 years, do you reckon?
Yeah, for sure.
But, I mean, if there are flying cars, do these robots not also have, like, somewhat sort of jetpack?
Jetpack built in, yeah.
I think, like, the jetpack technology just allows them to jump a lot higher, not actually sort of fly around.
Maybe they have. Well, I think that because they're all focused around different military roles, only some of them have the jetpack.
Oh, yeah,
and
so
not all of
the
them do.
paratrooper girl
Yeah.
would have a jetpack.
And the communications expert does as well because they need to be sort of lithe and nimble. And
yeah, maybe.
They need to like.
I think the communications guy person has, in my head at least, more the mechanical machine input from the connection.
Okay, yeah.
Whoever was Bertram, I think we called him.
Bertram, yes.
It's just like the robot has sort of like these fingers. We can do like nice little subtle allusions to other ones of our films.
Yeah,
just so
okay.
people are like, is this all one big extended universe? Is there a universe where this all exists? We'll never tell.
We'll never tell.
So yeah, that's great. Final thing to come up with, as
Yes,
always, is a
yes.
film title.
A title for this. Well, let's look back at the previous film starring John Cusack. So we had Truman, Paddles of Destiny. We had Billy versus the Machine. Machine is
Yeah.
a bit of a recurring theme.
I don't think we should put any clues in there at all.
Okay.
Like people just like it's going to be completely blindsided.
Yeah.
Even if like people went into Natural Selection 3 Part 2,
Yep.
the Return of the Revenge of the Galapagos or whatever like Peter decides to call, because like we now also have to come up with different colon like
we do,
Galapagos
actually.
Getaway and the Return of the anyway even if they expected John Cusack to be in that film,
True.
to be the third part of the trilogy, I want that person to not expect it from this film
Yes.
at all.
Well, we have licensed Army Men as well, the toys. So I feel like the film does need to have Army Men in there with a little trademark symbol next to it as well.
I think we just have like a silhouette of the Army Man as a punctuation mark or something like that, and we don't actually even reference it. That's also a surprise. That people are like, oh, did you see the Army Man film? I'm like, what are you talking about? Yeah, didn't you read? Because you had to like deep dive on the dark web to read the contract that we'd signed with it. I actually think like the actual intellectual property of Army Men is probably well out of anything that can possibly be licensed.
I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, I'm sure that Pixar probably licensed them to put them in Toy Story.
Maybe.
And then, because they sold them again as well. That's the other thing as well. When we do the toy tie-in, none of the toys are going to have any of the branding of the film on it just to really confuse you.
Exactly.
Okay.
So title of the film, though.
Title of the film.
Is Soldiers in there? Is that...
Yeah. We're dealing with like a platoon as well. The rest of a platoon.
We could call it Platoon, right?
Yeah. Is this a spiritual sequel to Platoon?
I was actually thinking like Platoon, but like we really hit the tune because it's animated, and we get like the Looney Tunes doing Platoon.
No, but it's like the sequel to Platoon as well. So it's like Platwoon.
Yeah, but then I think it really loses the Looney Tune thing. I reckon we just get Bugs Bunny and Porky Pig to reenact real bloody gritty sequences. Was it Oliver Stone who did that film? I forget.
Yes, I believe so.
That's a bit of an aside. We still have to come up with the name.
Yes, we do.
Soldiers, First Blood, Mechanical.
I really like the idea of focusing on the last 5. So like this is the last of a kind. They're the last remaining remnants. They were magnificent. They were heroic.
I like the idea of veteran in there somewhere as well.
Yeah, the
veterinated. Vetronic. I actually kind of like that.
Kind of like that, yeah, because it's got that kind of cheesy...
It sort of sounds like electronic, but vetronic.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. It's got the veteran, it's got the electronic.
Yeah. And we're doing a kind of a throwback film, I guess, in the sense it's going to be all-out action, so we kind of need a cheesier title.
Yeah.
Vetronic.
I like it.
That's not bad.
I really like it.
That's got a nice ring to it. It sounds quite nice. It'll look good on a poster too.
Yeah.
With the little army men. Maybe they can be the like eye in the Vetronic.
Yeah.
It can be like the army men silhouette.
Sure.
Of the toy. Vetronic.
Coming to cinemas in the near science fiction future.
Next week.
Yes. We'll find out how that goes next week.
Okay.
I wonder if our algorithm can work that quickly. I mean, we've got a pretty quick turnaround on these these films.
Yep.
But when you impose random guidelines on casting like that, you just never know.
Well, we did make that AI for Steel Chalk. Maybe we can just repurpose that.
Yeah. If we can get it out of its trailer, if it's not still huffy about,
right. We made a diva AI, didn't we?
We did.
Okay, I think that's a wrap. It's also a wrap on John Cusack's trilogy of eccentric millionaire, then billionaire, then trillionaire. That's a wrap.
Definitely a wrap on the trilogy. So definitely don't expect him to show up in any of our films ever again.
Exactly, he's out forever. Yep. Like, all right. I think that's it.
That is. Any housekeeping this week?
Yes. As per usual. We are online. We are moviefilmstudios.net, where you can find all of our previous episodes, some bios of us, and a list of every single film that we've created on this here podcast. We are on Facebook. Search for Movie Film Studios on that, where you can find emoji clues.
Weekly emoji clues.
As to the trailers that we've watched in the upcoming episode. How are you going to go for what we did today. Girl party, that's fine.
Well,
Quiet
obviously,
place.
by the time that the listeners are listening to this, I did a real good job.
You did indeed.
And they definitely understood exactly what I was talking about.
Congratulations.
And they engaged, and we had meaningful discussions in the comment sections. Congratulations,
Exactly.
guys.
Yeah, so join that, play the game. It's a good bit of fun with the Movie Film Studios community. We're on Twitter, where you will find what looks like an AI that just posts whenever we have an episode update. So give that a shot if you'd like. And we're also on iTunes, Podbean, and any other place that you discover podcasts. Give us a review, actually, on one of those services or on Facebook or whatever, because they do help.
Well, I suppose that's it for this week, isn't it?
It is indeed.
All that remains is to thank you all again for listening. I've been Isaac.
And I've been AJ.
Roll credits.
Bye.